was found money. He had to call his clearing company, Wellington Securities, get his $3,000 back, and take one step away from the loser's corner. When the clerk returned, he asked him to go over the numbers again with a calculator, but he knew he was right. He grabbed the phone to call Friedman at Wellington. Friedman was hard to like. He was one of these guys with some power in one little section of the world, which he used to bust chops every day. He was like a skinny security guard with a shiny new badge. And there's few things worse than dealing with a guy who's a putz to the rest of the world, but has authority over you. Frank dialed the number. Friedman picked up after about 17 rings. "Hey, Friedman." "Badge." That was how he always answered. No reason to be civil. Just give him your trading badge number and he'll look up your file. 835J. "What do you want, Frank?" "My P&L is off." "You're a frickin' pain, McKinley. What do you trade that could possibly be worth me looking up?" "I have a problem in Dino Corp. The P&L is off by 50%. Frank used a percentage to make the problem seem larger than $3,000. "Frank, I have a dozen other things that I should be doing. Give me a sec." Dino. Here it is. What the heck could be the problem? This pig hasn't traded in weeks.
Welcome back to International Radio Book Tour with author John Nuckel. I'm your host, Rich Galhausen. So, John, that was a reading from your book, The-Vig. That was the point where your primary character, Frank McKinley, discovers the scam.
Yeah. That's sort of a little the inner workings. You know, back the way it used to be was you would come in every day and you would from the day you would get your trading sheets, it was called. But actually, at that time, and I say this in the book, most of the everything was automated by then, as far as that was concerned, which makes the whole scam that much easier. But Frank happens to be in these terrible options that don't do anything because he's on a sort of a downward path. So that's true. He's in the loser's corner. So they haven't even bothered putting his into the system. So he has to go manually checking the data like in the old days. And that's really the only reason why he found this error. And he found that, $4.86 came out of his account on that particular day. And then he starts retracing it back, and it's these small amounts all over the place every day, all the time. And he started thinking, and this is the idea that, I call it the most corrupt decade in the history of Wall Street. And one of the things about that, there was so much going on. Things were trading so fast. There were so many scandals that what a great time to steal a little bit of money from a lot of people. And the idea was actually inspired by my phone bill. If you look at your phone bill and it says, for me it would say New York State, NYS GMT. What that means, I don't know, but it's 0.25 cents. And 0.25 cents comes out from everyone. I don't know what it is. And the idea, and it actually did happen where someone could hack in and just skim out a couple, steal the VIG and skim out a couple cents from everyone. So in this particular case, it's a brokerage stock market clearing company, and they have 15,000 clients, and each client is stealing $4 or $5 from every day. With all the trading activity that goes on, it would be hard to track. But every once in a while, someone like Frank comes along and finds that something's missing. And that's really what gets the ball rolling. Actually, Frank is, he doesn't really care that much. His motivation is for him to get some money back into his accounts and try to get himself back in the game, And when he confronts the clearing company about this, that's when, he's offered a bribe, and he discovers that the federal government has been investigating this clearing company all along, and now here he is caught in the middle of all of it. Mm-hmm. So that's the essence of the story.
Okay. I need to have you explain to the audience the name of your book, The Vig. We're going to get into the corruption, the scam, and the characters. Explain to the audience what the VIG is.
Well, the VIG is most commonly used in betting, wagering. And that is, the bookie always makes, or the house will say, Las Vegas or the racetrack, they always make their percentage, or this 10%, 5%. That's what's called the VIG, the vigorish. Interest paid to a money lender. That's exactly what the VIG, the description of that slang term is. And on the trading floors, that would be called, you would call the VIG would be the spread between the bid and the offer, the cost to carry the position out a certain amount of days. A spread, selling the calls and buying the puts, what's that price ratio, what's that VIG? That's how the VIG is referred to. And of course, in, illegal or underground terms, the VIG is, the payoff, the amount you have to pay the guy on the loading dock to put one of the pallets in your truck. The price of the things that fell off the truck. And what I liked about this is first of all, the name. I like the word. It's a good word. And also it crosses over both sides of the supposed legitimate world and the illegitimate world. They both use the right term. And they both know that that's where the money's made. The money's made in the VIG, and that percentage, the real smart people. The smart people are the ones who take that small amount, not the people who wager, not the people who put up their own money. You use other people's money, or you make money on the spread. That's what they do.
We've talked about that era of corruption that continues even unto today, and the scam that you utilized in your novel is a real scam. It's something that actually does occur. It has occurred many times, apparently.
Yeah.
I'd like to touch upon that corruption briefly, if you don't mind, John. Let's talk about that. Like, for example, the Bernie Madoffs or the people who steal hundreds of millions of dollars. When they're eventually caught, there really doesn't seem to be much consequence. They're allowed to keep a great deal of their money that they've stolen. Do you mind talking about that for a few minutes?
No, not at all. And that's the bigger picture, and that is, all the banks. I mean, you read it every day where they steal $100 billion and they pay a $7 billion fine. I mean, it just seems that it's good business now to do something. They just had a price fixing thing against the LIBOR, and they just all pay penalties. It's just really, actually, it used to be that they would. Someone would get indicted or get caught, and they would be banned from the business and do not admit or deny guilt. That used to be the phrase. Mm-hmm. Now they plead guilty. They just plead guilty and just pay a fine. It's really remarkable that, these CEOs of these companies, with Jamie Dimon at Chase Bank, I mean, the companies pay like $18 billion in fines, and he's still the CEO. That would be unheard of, 10, 15 years ago, unheard of. If why should the shareholders be burdened by this? And there he is. He's still in charge. It really is incredible. And some people will say that it's the government being overzealous and using them as an ATM. But I mean, you're getting into multi-billions. I mean, they could hire a lot of lawyers and pay them for a long time to defend them if they were innocent, and it would cost a lot less than $1 billion. Mm-hmm. So something's wrong. But what I like about the VIG is this is the type of thing, even though it's on Wall Street, this could take place anywhere because there are people skimming these small amounts in every walk of life. You walk into a tavern, there's a bartender who's going to pocket the $20 out of the register. You go. I was just at a florist, and he said, I'll give it to you for this price if you pay cash. So he's not paying taxes. Well, maybe he's not telling his boss that he made a sale. And the parking garage, it just goes on everywhere. And this story just happens to be on Wall Street, and it just happens to be bigger numbers. But I think it's about the personality of the people, because that guy who would steal the 20 out of the till, the bartender. What if he was managing $100 million? You know what I mean?
That's right.
He would just steal more. So he's no better than Bernie Madoff or Lance Armstrong or whatever. This is the way. And unfortunately, that type of person or that type of personality has pervaded Wall Street. I think, and I think that is because of the technology and people are getting squeezed out. And, that's something that was unique to that era, which is I'd like to talk about a little bit if I could.
Absolutely.
Well, what made the VIG interesting and that era interesting is that really, back then the American Stock Exchange and a lot of Wall Street in general was more really sharp, smart guys. They were just smarter than most people. They really were. And the people that were down there were, very quantitative and very analytical because before the technology came in, that was their edge. So when they could think 10 or 15 moves ahead of everyone else, that's how they would make their fortune. When the technology came in, it took away the VIG, it took away the margin, it took away those 10 or 15 moves. And what I think was good about the American Stock Exchange when I was down there, and what made, sort of goes into the essence of the VIG, is the people that were there. It was an interesting, eclectic place. Like I said, before the technology, so you would have a lot of people using game theory. There would be a lot of, there were gin players, professional gin players. There was, who's down there? This guy Eric Seidel, who's one of the greatest poker players of all time. He was in the movie Rounders with Matt Damon. He was a trader. Stu Sternberg, who is the owner of the Tampa Bay Rays now. He was a specialist for spear leads down on the floor. I have a good story, sort of encapsulates how the floor was and how the people were. When I was a specialist, one of the traders in my crowd was this gentleman named Ron Henley. And we used to go down to play basketball at the New York Athletic Club. And one time he came, and, and we're playing. And the next week comes, it's our night to go down there. I asked him, are you going to come down with us again? He goes, no, I'm going up to Midtown for that IBM Big Blue chess tournament. The computer. Big Blue is playing against Gary Kasparov. So here I am, some mook from Long Island. I'm saying to Ron Henley, so you're interested in chess? And he says, yeah, well, I'm Gary Kasparov's second. So when he, during breaks, we go over strategy together because I'm an international grandmaster also. And I'm thinking, here I am, telling him, well, let's wait for the stock to go a little higher before we buy these options. And here he is, this international chess master. And, I'm making fun of him for not playing good defense when we play basketball. And he's an internationally renowned chess player. So it was sort of an interesting group down there,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then what happened was, like I said, was as soon as the technology came in, so a guy like Ron, as smart as he obviously is, it really didn't matter because being smart didn't matter. He wasn't as fast as a computer, and he was fast. But, and that added to this whole urgency, and that's when, when the margin goes away and the VIG goes away, some people start cutting corners. And this is how I built the story of the VIG. It's about someone cutting the corners and what happens.
Well, John, I think this is a good time to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the characters and their involvement with the scam.
Okay.
So we'll take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back.